Welcome to the Swamp. So I've already covered STARSAND as an early access game. As of a week or two ago, they finally came out into the 1.0 full release. I wasn't informed by Steam that they had come out, so I'm a little bit late for this review, but I went ahead and replayed this game to see how it had changed since the last time I played it. Unfortunately, the answer is not a lot. However, I'm still going to go ahead and give you the full in-depth review of my final thoughts of this game. My name is Excalligator. I rate games based on many categories that would fit into most survival games, based on a 1 to 5 system. If a category does not apply, it will not affect the game's overall score. Now let us get started. Now, I played around 25 hours of this game with 2 separate playthroughs, once about a year ago in the early access, and this last week for a fresh experience. I was able to beat the second playthrough faster than I was before, as I already had knowledge on the game and was able to make it to even the medal items by the first few in-game days. STARSAND is a mix of the movies Tremor and Stargate. Your character runs into a building and suddenly wakes up on an unknown world that is nothing but sand. However, that is not all that is out there. Beneath the dunes, you have alien worm creatures that stalk you and will cause tremors in the earth before they attack. It's your job to figure out what happened to the people there and how to get back home. This game does not require a high-end computer, more like a middle-of-the-road computer in order to run. While I don't have too many issues running this game, it doesn't hurt to have an above-average computer. There still is no character creation as of the launch, and I don't know if it's ever planned. Your character does not have a name, and there is no multiplayer. I'm tempted to give it a low score for the fact that you can't even name your character in lieu of not being able to make the character, but I'm just not going to rate this section. The game starts off with a cutscene where it explains that you are caught in a sandstorm while running a marathon, and you waited out in a mysterious building. As you wake up, you are now on this desert planet and you need to survive. There is a short minor tutorial to give you an idea on how to play the game, then you are on your own. If you follow the tutorial, it will lead you to a starting oasis to begin your adventure. However, you don't have to go there, and you may go anywhere you wish. If you can, that is. As you notice, you have sun exposure, and you will get hot, and at a certain degree, you will take damage. You also have to manage your food and water. I would say if you don't have prior knowledge of this game, like I did with this playthrough, it would be mildly difficult experience to get your feet off the ground and to find out where all of the upgrades and such are in order to progress. I'm gonna go ahead and give this section a 4 out of 5. It is an overall not that bad start, and does give you a needed tutorial without being handholdy. Exploration is a must in this game. Every resource, while they can respawn, takes several days to respawn, so it is necessary to travel from oasis to oasis to gather what you need and bring it back to your base. There are some resources in greater abundance deep into the gorge and badland areas, like iron and sulfur, but to make ease of travel faster, you will need to find blueprints as well as pre-made structures to study. In a world of nothing but sand dunes, it might be hard to locate anything, but in the first relative area, you do have some vague landmarks to help hint you to areas, such as large pillars or ruins. The further into the map you go, the farther the locations are, so you will need better ways of transportation as well as sun protection, food, water, and whatever you can find in order to manage within the first few oases or so. The world itself is fairly barren of life. It makes sense in terms of the setting, but unlike the game era, there are at least animals that you can rarely find in the desert. They travel between the oasis, which help you when trying to figure out where the oases are. Just go in the direction that they are either heading or leaving, and you will find a water source. They will either stay at an oasis for a while before moving on, but they won't stay long if you are present, as they get scared away easy, and rarely come back unless you leave for an extended period of time. I'm going to give the exploration a 3.5 out of 5. While it is great to explore the corners of the map and for new locations and recipes, it can also be a drag, as it not only is a bit boring to see nothing but sand for long periods of time, but also the time traveled can take up to several minutes even on camelback, so you'll get a sense of boredom between the locations. I made a point in another video to say that there are 3 levels of difficulty when it comes to surviving these types of games. 1 where you barely survive because it is too easy and it's basically a non-issue. 2 where you can progress past certain areas but there's always a challenge ahead. And 3 where it is always hard. I would say this is a game between 1 and 2. At the start of the game, it is mildly difficult with the sun exposure and keeping fed and hydrated, while trying to learn new recipes and such, but once you make a farm for daily fruit and you get a camel for ease of transportation, it rapidly becomes much easier to survive this game. Having a camel, full sun-resistant gear, and decent canteen, I almost forget I'm trying to survive and just continue on my way doing whatever I need to do. Of course, I also place a tent and flag locations at each major landmark of the map, so I can have a save point since you respawn at your last save, and so I can mark locations on the map. On that note, make sure to save often. I'm going to give the survival a 3 out of 5. It starts off decent enough, but towards endgame it is a non-issue. So you have 2 tiers of building a home. You have palm tree leaves up to clay. While making a home is not mandatory for completing the game, it is not that bad to make a little home for yourself either. While there's still not a lot of decor for your home, they do have tables, chairs, and now they have an armor stand, and they still have the terrarium for the collection system. Kind of like a Zelda game where you collect the rare bugs out in Hyrule Field, only you get to keep them and put them in a little terrarium to watch them walk around. While you are able to make base defense systems to protect your home, the worms will only attack your home if you hide inside of it while they attack. If you leave your base, they focus on you, not your base, so you don't really have to worry about base defense. When it comes to the crafting, you start off with a decent amount of crafting to get started. The more items you gather and the blueprints you find, you start to learn more recipes, the best ones being found throughout exploration. You still don't have as many metal items as I wish there was. That was something that I brought up in my last video, that you only use metal for a few things, but you can't even make metal arrows or armor. And the farming is a godsend in this game. While not mandatory, unlike Stranded Deep, it is very helpful. Most resources take anywhere from 2 to 5 days to respawn, but things that you are able to farm, you're able to get and grow on a daily basis. Watering is really not that hard when you're next to an oasis to begin with, and fertilizer is optional. This section I'm going to go ahead and rate a 4 out of 5. While the building is fairly standard yet harmless, crafting as well, the farming is a godsend. The PvE is really not that good. Stab them with a pointy end and do damage. The animals only have one attack and are very basic. Hell, the gazelles have a delayed reaction from being hit to running. The worms themselves are rarely seen in the world. There are only a few locations that have them guarding the ruins. Once they are killed, they are permanently dead from that location. Other than that, they only appear to attack you after the tremors happen. Which can happen at any time. It seems to have at least a cooldown of a day in-game, then after that, there's a chance for it to happen again every other day. Usually the first day is relatively safe, but by the second day is when you start having a chance for them to attack. After a tremor happens, anywhere from 1 to 5 worms will spawn just outside of your view and will head for you. Once they are spawned, they will never despawn until you kill them, and they will always be locked onto you, so if you run, they won't be far behind, and they will catch up. Fighting 1, maybe 2 is not really that bad, but at 3 to 5 it is much harder to deal with, and cheesing becomes your only valid option of killing them. There are 2 cheesing methods. One would be using water. The worms cannot swim, so if you wade in the water, you can get a little bit of a respite from their attacks. There is also one oasis on the map, which I won't say exactly where it is, that you'll have to find out yourself, but it has a small island so the worms won't be able to reach you. Just be wary of crocodiles in the water. The other cheesing method is what I use. It is so you ride on a camel backwards. By walking backwards on a camel, your speed is set so it's just enough that the worm can get close to you, but you pull away out of their range right as they go to attack you, so they can't hit you at all. Then you just shower them with arrows. There is now, as of the launch of this game, a final boss that you can fight. It is in the exact same location that I mentioned in the previous video, but in order to fight her, you need to do a few tasks that are new to the game as of the early access. In the end, the PvE is really not that good, so I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5. There is no PvP as there is no multiplayer, so this section will be skipped. The story delivers itself to you as you find the scrolls that are hidden throughout the world. Scrolls, or rather artifacts. I call them scrolls, but they're called artifacts. It doesn't matter. As you explore, you will find around 3 scrolls, each one needed to complete the game, as well as find out the story of what happened to this land. As such, this is a common tactic used by most survival games, so it's going to get an average score of 3 out of 5. While I'll discuss the spoilers in the spoiler section, the story itself is also very generic, as I've mentioned before, and has been seen in other movies, so it's gonna be a 3 out of 5 for basic storytelling. Now for the spoiler section. As you open and read the scrolls, you come to find out what happened to the other humans of this land. They were aided by mysterious others, and with the blessings of their technology, they thrived and had a city of water that was a jewel in the sand. But one day, the broodmother worm broke free from the lake that formed at the bed of the river, and her children wreaked havoc. The worms attacked the villages and city, causing the humans to go on the defense. Eventually, their civilization was lost, and they had to survive by hiding in caves and outcrops in the canyons. One day, the mysterious beings came back and led the humans through a portal to a safe place. That portal turns out to be the room that you wake up in. So how you got there is how you're gonna get out. I know I've said it before, but I'm gonna say it again. Stargate and Tremors. It's not a terrible story by any means, but it's not that original. There is not much to the endgame. Once you defeat the final boss and you win the game, you can try harder difficulties. Building is a bit of a chore and not really worth it once your progression is maxed out, and you can go and collect the bugs if you want. That's pretty much about it, so the endgame is going to be getting a 2 out of 5. There is no modding for this game, so I will not be rating this section. As of writing this review, I am not sure if there are any more updates planned for this game. There is nothing that I've seen that says if there is or not. Based on what I've seen, I expect this game to be in maintenance mode, but that has remained to be seen. I'm not going to give it a rating because I am unsure as of the future of this project. The few bugs that I had in my original review are all still here. When cycling items in your hotkeys, it can skip over 1 or 2 more than you wanted. The frame rate was fairly good, mostly at 60 with a few drops to 30 here and there, but nothing that really stopped me. It is an overall good experience when it comes to the bugs and lag, minus a few things that I've noticed here and there, so I'm going to go ahead and give this score a 4 out of 5. My overall and final score for this game is going to be a 3.1 out of 5. Roughly the same as what I originally gave it before. Since nothing really has changed from the last time I played it about a year ago, I had the exact same experience as before, minus the new boss battle and the new gun you can find in the end game. Besides that, for those who haven't played before, I would say if you want to try this game, there is no harm to do so, as it was fun first playing it through. I even played it a couple of days non-stop when I first did. But I also recommend waiting for a sale too, especially if you're someone who wants a long-term experience, as this is more a 12-hour game or so, at least per playthrough, unless you really want to take your time with it. And that is the end of this video. If you liked my review, please subscribe to this channel as I will be making more in-depth reviews of open-world sandbox survival RPG games, including those that no one ever talks about from the deepest, darkest depths of Steam. Some games that even look like the muck at the bottom of my pond. If you have any suggestions for what game to do next, please comment below and like this video. Florida Gator Man out.